Hey everybody! Today we are here with Spook Luke. How you doing, man?
Hey, morning, afternoon. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. We were talking just a little bit, and before the show even started, we were talking about what is good at Rocket League and like how social media skews. Like at what point do you become good? Like, is it a rank? Like, is it a skill set? Like how far do you have to be to say you're good? Because I mean, if Zen is the only good player, or Vatira is only good player,
No
like
chance for me then, I'll tell you
yeah.
that.
Do you think our standard might be a little bit too high for what is good at Rocket League?
It's a great question, and I think the answer is 100%. With being on like social media, right? The problem with the content most people consume is the clips that people see are not just like the top 1%. They're the top 1% of the 1%. It's like
And
you
even
know, I
then,
go
it's the top 1% of their gameplay.
Oh my God. I go in so I don't like to read comments very much. But I'll go into other people's comment section, for example, and I'll see some clip of like, AJ posting a clip, Reddles posting a clip, people like Appjack posting a clip. They'll hit some like crazy shot, and then there's dudes in the comment section like honestly mid. And I'm like, this person is 100 times better than any of us will ever be. How could you call this shot mid? And it's like, I think because we get to see the, Henkoviches of the world and the
Hmm.
freestylers and all their stuff, people forget what top that, being champ one or being champ two, the ranks that get memed on is like
It's
top
like top,
10%, top
yeah,
5%. Crazy.
yeah. I think also like when it comes to it, like it's hard to have like an objective standard to what is good at Rocket League, especially with it being like so young of an esport in a game. Like it's very easy to be
Mm,
like, okay, like this is what a good quarterback looks like, or this is what a good goalie looks like. But with Rocket League, it's still fairly young, so it's still hard to identify and like even have a language for like, okay, like this player is good at ones. Like that's
yeah.
there's a lot that goes into ones.
Yeah. I think it's much easier to judge cooking than to cook yourself, and it's very easy
Hmm.
to look at a replay of yourself or look at a replay of player and be like, "Wow, I would have done something differently in that situation." But it's very different to be the one in their shoes. So I think it's just always easier for people to judge. Um, but yeah, I can't lie. I can't say that I don't play a part in it, right? Because what I mean, as you know, my content is based off of improving in Rocket League, and so
Hmm.
I have to help, like I help people get better. And so I see firsthand like the videos that I would make 4 years ago teaching mechanics, they don't fly anymore. Whereas people 4 or 5 years ago would have been impressive if you could speed flip. Now if you're I mean, shoot, I get players that I coached. If I if they're diamond two, if they're diamond three and they're not speed flipping, they're at a disadvantage now.
Oh
And
yeah.
so it just changes over time too, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the other things like with the evolving meta. Like 5 years ago, playing best case scenario, worst case scenario made a lot of sense because people didn't have the mechanics or like the consistency yet. That if you play best case scenario, 10% of the time you're getting an open goal, like even at the professional level. But now, because people have gotten so consistent, like if you play best case scenario, uh, like at the top level, like even like SSL, like not even the pro level, like you're looking at you maybe score 1 out of 100 times because yeah, they
Mm.
maybe aren't whiffing entirely, or but they're at least getting a good enough touch that you sitting 2 feet in front of the net hoping the ball drops in front of you is no longer an option.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's a great point. People uh, yeah, the skill gap has only widened
Hmm.
in over time, right? And it just the skill ceiling climbs. And people know this, but what people don't realize is that what it means is every day it is work like the average player, people like you and me, even who are, grand champ, champ, for us to play like the pros every day is a worse and worse idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 3-4 years ago, learning from what the pros were doing made a little bit of sense. But nowadays, if I'm coaching a guy and this guy tells me, well, I played aggressive here, I went for a solo play here because that's what all the pros do at the top levels, it's a bad idea, because people at the low ranks, what you do to win in plat is completely different than what you should be doing to win at SSL. It's just you're playing a different game, because it's like people have a completely different moveset at the high ranks. So I totally agree. Like at the high ranks, for example, like playing super optimistic and hoping they make a bad touch on defense, it never works. But at the low ranks, sometimes it will, you know?
I have this whole term called plat boxing that I invented for it. I was coaching one of my teams, and they were setting up a net, and I was just like, dude, like, do you know why you're doing what you're doing? He's like, yeah, like I'm hoping for this. It's like, yeah, because you learned that works in plat, and you just haven't learned that doesn't work anymore. And so we jokingly called it plat boxing. Me and my team, like, we love just being sarcastic with each other, or that specific team, because we're just a college team. Nothing too impressive, at least at the start. And so that's a term that I have come to love, because it just encapsulates that entire idea.
Yeah, plat boxing. That's funny.
Yeah, I guess when it comes to defining what's good, like, at what point do you think you can start playing a semblance of Rocket League? I guess you'd say, if you say like the pro scene is Rocket League, like at what point can you at least, maybe not with the same pacing and everything, but like at what level do you think, like, okay, rotations, everybody can touch the ball enough consistently enough, maybe not with power and speed or control or whatever, but they can at least touch it enough that this is when really Rocket League starts to look like Rocket League?
It's a great question. I could tell you the short answer, but I'm gonna tell you the long one. I was on a call with Verge yesterday, and we were talking about, different, like, what got us into coaching and why we still coach today. And he was telling me one of the reasons, because I know Verge was on your podcast a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me one of the reasons he got into Rocket League is because he doesn't like how information is gate kept, and he doesn't want it to be that the only way that you get better at this game is through, sinking thousands of hours. He said if it took him 100 hours to learn, he wants to help the next guy learn it in 10. And so it comes back to the question of, like, at what rank does Rocket League become good? When does it become coordinated? I think that people all throughout the ranks now, like, there are guys who come into my coaching program. We coach people that are mostly through Plat and Champ, and there are guys in the program, Plat and Diamond, who have good understandings of the game and who understand what rotation is and how it should be played. But I don't think Rocket League really becomes fun. This is not true. I wouldn't say fun. It can be fun in Drop Shot or Snow Day or Hoops. But Rocket League doesn't get played at a team level until people have mechanics to be able to do what they want to do more often than they mess it up.
Yeah.
I think, maybe, so I don't know where you would peg it. I was a guy who was joining my coaching program, joined for exactly this reason. He's like, I love Rocket League, but it's not fun at Diamond 2 right now. He's like, I want to get to a point where my teammates and I can actually do what we say we're going to do. And so he asked me point blank, he's like, what rank do I have to get to for that to happen? And I told him, a while ago I might have said Champ, but now I think it's probably GC1 and up is the point at which when a person says, going for a solo, or I'm going to save it, or I got it, you can trust that they're actually going to get it. If I'm playing with a Champ 1 or Champ 2, like lower rated friend, and they tell me that, they got it and they're shadowing, I'm still playing backboard covering for them just to be safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like for me, I halfway agree, halfway disagree, but it's less to do with that. And I think it has more to do with, like, the way the rank system works and, like, how condensed they've made the ranks. Have you seen the rank distribution for season 12?
I got a video in the works on it right now. I saw, on the Reddit. Reddit's the most recent. Season 12 was the most
Yeah,
recent
season
one
12
released.
is the most recent.
Yeah, which is weird because we're in season 15.
Season 14? Yeah,
Season
season
14.
13 just ended. So yeah, season 14.
There you go.
New season 14, which is weird to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, they basically like at the start of free play, I did a whole video on like the history of ranked and how I got here. But honestly, like there's so many people in the like plat diamond range that I think should really be in that silver and gold range, and that's what skews
Mhm.
so much of that. Because I think there are some people that are run across because like I'm in the like honestly like I had barely played threes and I started playing it again and I forgot that you can't play Rocket League at this low rank. And so like I got deranked into like plat 3.
Mhm.
But like I'm champ 1 and 2s right now. And so I was just like, oh wait, yeah, I gotta relearn that this isn't Rocket League if I'm gonna play down here. But the weird thing is I come across some games even at that level where it feels like a champ 2 lobby. We're all
Mhm.
air dribbling, we're all rotating, like it's double taps and it's like, dude, like how is this like plat 3 diamond 1? And then I played an XCM, I'm like, oh yep, this is definitely like
Right.
plat 3 diamond 1. And so I don't know if I don't really think it's smurfing as much as I think the rank system has just mingled people together so much.
Yeah. I think that's a wise take. First off, to people that think they're a current rank because there are Smurfs out there, um, I hate to break it to you, but Smurfing, there are a lot of problems with Rocket League. Smurfing is not the reason the rank system is the way it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of other things having to do with season reset, players dropping off, smaller
Hmm.
player pool, for example. The weird thing they've done where for some reason everybody is ranked between plat and champ and nobody is ranked between bronze and gold, even brand new players,
Yeah.
which doesn't make sense. That those are the reasons why the rank system's really, really messy right now. And yeah, so I get it. When you say like, yeah, when somebody says they're, plat 2, plat 3, it could mean they're plat 2, plat 3, or it could mean they were 2 seasons ago they were a champ.
Yeah. So part of that's also on me for just not playing threes for I think like 4 or 5 seasons. But
Yeah. Don't
that's
worry, I'm there too.
yeah. But no, I think that's where I think around diamond is where people can start to at least maybe not like with the aerials and everything, but at least like on the ground they can hit it enough that they can drive and maybe jump off the wall and like do a really basic idea of rotation and spacing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's probably a good place to put it at.
Yeah.
I think the idea is really interesting though, what you said about because you've played at higher ranks, and so you said you got put in plat 2, plat 3 after doing your placements or not being placed.
Yeah.
And you know that the way that you have to play to win now is not the way that you play to win when you know you can trust your teammates. What are some of the things you do differently?
Honestly, like as much as I hate to say it, like I just sit as third and just shoot every ball on
Yeah.
net.
It's exactly what you should do. Yeah.
It's
So people don't realize.
yeah, like the weird thing is like I think it was like the second or third game, and I caught the ball on the backboard, and I jumped off to go into an air dribble, and my teammate bumps me like just straight. He's like, "Dude, like you got a bad touch," and I was just like, "I forgot these people have never seen an air dribble before," and so like. That's not necessarily that's like not to be mean to them, but like they probably have never seen that like from a teammate, or they've seen a teammate touch the ball and jump and be like, oh, they messed up, because 9 times out of 10
Yeah.
in plaid that's actually what's happening.
Yeah. I think you're both right. See, that's the
Yeah.
toughest part about it. I think one of the reasons I was talking with Verge, and Verge said Rocket League is one of the most difficult games to master. It might be he said outright it is the hardest game to master, and I might agree with him. And it's because in Rocket League, unlike any other game, move sets change as you rank up. So when you're playing chess, a new player can move the knight the same way
Mm-hmm.
an advanced player can move. But because in Rocket League, a new player can't speed flip. A new player can't double tap. You're playing a game with a completely different moveset. And so in some weird way, your plat teammate bumping you off the ball because you made a soft touch instead of a booming clear and he was nervous, he's right. Because like you said, every time he's seen a teammate make a soft touch off the backboard, they panicked, they backflipped, and the ball landed in front of the net. But so I think this is one of the reasons Rocket League is so hard to master. You have to learn and unlearn things in each rank as you acquire new move sets. And for that reason, like that's why coaching is one of the hardest things to do. And like making content about improvement, there are only so many topics that I can say or talk about where I can definitively say A is better than B. In most cases, like, you know, when I say, you know, when I'm speaking to different ranks, I have to say different things. Like in plat, I say things like, in plat, you need to learn how to boom the ball and hit it hard and just clear it. Whereas in champ, I say you need to stop throwing possession. You need to hold on to the ball. You need to make soft touches and get beats. And those things completely contradict each other, and yet they're both true.
Yeah, I think what's made, at least of recent, it even more difficult to say that is because they've intermingled these ranks so much. It's hard to say in plat do this. It's like when you have plat teammates, you need to do this, or if you have diamond teammates. But then you have to figure it out in the first 30 seconds or so, like what your teammates actually are.
Yeah, who you're playing
And
with.
so, yeah, I think that's why solo queuing is and really just the player base in general has gone down. Is like it's become that wild inconsistency of like who you're gonna get. Do you think that they might need to put like at least like a percentage of your MMR that's like global?
So 2v2 crossover to 3v3 crossover to 1v1? Is that what that means?
Yeah, like I think 1v1 should be more heavily weighted, just because if you're champ 1 and 1s, like you have the mechanics and consistency at least to just win every game through plat, maybe even diamond, just by your shooting and like sheer fundamentals. And I don't think it's good to put that person in, you know, plat 3v3, and then basically he's boosting every player that he plays with.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So I don't know. Do you think that might be a solution?
Yeah, I think it's a solution. I think there are a lot of things that could happen with the ranked system to make it a better experience. But I think the question is, what problem are we solving?
Yeah.
Right? And I think I like that idea. I think that idea equalizes things across the game mode. I think that solution solves the problem of how do we rate a player who has a lot of game hours, but they're split up amongst the game modes, right? Because then their true rank isn't reflected by their public rank, their MMR, because there's not enough signal in the noise of each game mode.
Yeah.
Whereas versus a player who only queues twos, well then twos is going to be a better proxy of their rank because there's more signal, less noise. So I think that's one solution. I think another solution is I like your solution a lot from earlier, which is why do we have 90% of the player base in 3 ranks when this game has 7 total ranks? You know, between bronze, silver, gold, diamond, plat, champ, grand champ. I guess I didn't include SSL.
I don't really even consider SSL a rank per se.
Yeah,
like because
it's like the trophy.
Yeah, like at that point, like once you're grand champ, it's like you're like I think depending on the game mode, anywhere from top 1% to like top 0.01%.
Yes,
just like varying on season and such. And so like at that point, like, and then your SSL on top of that, like I kind of see that as like Radiant versus like Immortal. Where it's like, yeah, like you're the best of the best, but like an Immortal can have a Radiant level game here and there. If I don't know if you follow Valorant at all, but
I have friends who play. I don't play at all, so I won't comment on that. But I think you're right. I think you're right. I wouldn't even consider it a rank, which just proves the point even more. It's like, why is everybody is everybody I talk to rated plat, diamond, champ, or grand champ? Why is nobody rated bronze to gold? I think the reason we're seeing this issue so much is because there are less players than ever before. So having everybody clustered in the middle ranks is a serious problem. Um, but I'm not gonna. It's easy to be an armchair expert here. But yeah, I think if I were in charge of things, one of the first things I would look at is how can we make this a better experience for new players, and what that probably looks like is how can we fix bronze through gold being these basically barren ranks.
Yeah.
But I don't know what. But I help people rank up. I'm not in charge of the rank system. Those are different things.
Yeah. So I guess that is a good segue. Like when it comes to within all this chaos, how do you rank up other than just queuing with friends and all getting good together?
Yeah.
And then all be limited by yourself together at the same time.
You're right. The funny thing is, I think regardless of the labels you put on each rank, at least the way that I've always followed ranking up, and this goes whether I'm a plat or when I was plat, when I was diamond, when I was champ, and now that I'm Heartstuck GC permanently, it's I practice something called the theory of constraints, which is just at any given time there are 100 things wrong with your gameplay. We know this because we're not pros, so there's 100 things we could be doing better. The reason Rocket League is so hard is because the question you have to answer is not what is everything I need to rank up. You need to answer what is the one thing that if I improved would give me the most results right now. And so what I do is I look at my gameplay on, I wouldn't say a weekly basis. I would call it much more like a monthly basis, because at the level I'm at, it takes time to fix my problems. I look at my game at a monthly basis and I say, what is the number one thing that I could focus on for the next 30 days that if I solved would give me the most progress, regardless of rank, would make me the better player? And the hard part is you need to have a decent sense of confidence that what you're going to work on is the right thing, but then you also have to have enough trust and patience to just stick with that thing for a while. Now, because at the lower ranks, the thing that's holding you back could be that you don't know how to fast aerial. And how long does it take you to learn how to fast aerial? If you watch my tutorial, 3, 4, or 5 days, maybe?
Yeah, if that.
But when you're Grand Champ 2, and the reason you're not ranking up is because you're not good at
double taps aren't good enough.
Exactly. It's like, okay, so you're gonna go fix that in a weekend? No.
You're gonna feel like it at least for one of those days.
Exactly. So that's just it. It's fundamentally improvement is the same all the way up. It's just the amount of patience you need to have, and the amount of time it's going to take goes up. And so that's the hardest part of it all. But I think fundamentally you could apply the theory of constraints applies to a bronze player just as much as it applies to a pro player on an individual basis. Now on a team basis, it's more difficult, but that's how I would approach like an individual's improvement. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's one of the difficult things. I think the more counterintuitive thing, like it's very easy to be like, let me mechanic my way out of this. And to a certain extent, it's right. But then also you get the positioning aspect and like, what am I even going for in the first place? Because if every single touch I make is a top corner shot, I'll hit Grand Champ SSL easy. But should every single touch be that? Mm-hmm. And so like you're going to get to a certain point where it's like, okay, if all this person does is shoot it on net, like I'm not even going to challenge because I can just sit back and let them pass me the ball, essentially.
Yeah.
And so that's the difficulty of not only what do your teammates expect, but what do your opponents expect? And how do you confuse your opponents without confusing your teammates? Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things going through the ranks. Like we used that backboard example earlier. It's just like, well, okay, like Diamond is around the rank where you should kind of expect that to start happening. But in Champ is when you should pretty much always trust, like, maybe not trust that it's going to be like a perfect air dribble or something, but at least 8 to 9 times out of 10, like they're not just going to drop it in front of the net.
Sure.
And so like there's that weird transition period where it's like, well, how much do I trust my teammate? How much space do I give my teammate?
Yeah. Yeah. This is where I think it's the because there's no right answer. There are multiple correct answers. There's just a lot
Hmm.
of good ideas. This is where I think it's important to defer to somebody who's higher rank who can just say, "Hey, I looked at your gameplay and you're going to have to trust me right now. The reason you're not ranking up is because yes, you're doing all these things, but the number one thing you're doing wrong is you're overcommitting too much as second man or as last
Hmm.
man back. That's the reason you're not ranking up. And we could improve your mechanics in the meantime, but that's the one thing that you need to stop doing right now."
Yeah.
And that's where it's important to have somebody with that you can trust in, because otherwise, yeah, the hardest part about ranking up in Rocket League is you don't know what you're incompetent at. You don't know what your weakness is, because if you did, you would have fixed it.
Yeah.
You know, that's just coaching in general.
Yeah. I think probably the easiest framework that I've come up with for at least like thinking through plays, uh, and I think this applies to like if you're first, second, or third man, is I call it the 4 E's of Rocket League: your entry, your engagement, your extra, and then your exit. And so like your entry is like, how do you enter the play? It's like, okay, I'm entering the play as first man. So that's like your positioning. And then your engagement is like, okay, like, do I just need to shoot this ball? Do I need to air dribble, control it, whatever? How you actually engage with the play. And then your extra is, okay, now that I've done my first objective, is there anything extra I can do on my way to exit the play? And exiting in a way that allows me to enter the play how I want. And then as second man, it could be, okay, I'm going to enter the play as a passing option. Okay, the passing option got closed down. So instead of sitting there, what's the extra I can do? And then exit to get out. And then third man, it's like, okay, I need to enter as the more safe option. And okay, like the 50 ended up coming back to me. So now I'm engaging with it there. And thinking through that like 4-step process, especially in solo queue, I think it helps you not confuse your teammates as you make it clear, like as you're entering the play, okay, I'm going to do this, then this, and I'm going to make it obvious that I'm getting out. And I think that's you have that thought process going into the game, you can at least be easier to play with on average.
Totally. Yeah. I like what you said about, like, I think giving new players, especially somebody who's overwhelmed by the game,
Mm-hmm.
giving them frameworks to think through decisions is very, very helpful. I like what you said about, like, because for example, I'll watch like platinum or diamond players, and I notice they think through a lot what they're going to do with the ball,
Mm-hmm.
but the minute they leave the play or they're not first man or they make their touch, it's almost always default of I'm going to go back and I'm going to get my corner boost, and then I'm going to turn my ball cam back on and figure out what happened in the last 10 seconds that I've been away from the play.
Yeah.
Whereas like you said, okay, if I'm following your checklist, after I make my touch, I think, what's happening on my exit? What can I do? Is there
Mm-hmm.
any way that I have, or as you put it, extra? Can I go for a demo? Can I stay up? Is there anything I can do besides just go back to my corner boost? I think giving frameworks to new players is really, really helpful for that. But yeah, at the same time, you can't just tell them what the right answer is, because there's no right answer. It's like there are a lot of correct answers. It's you have to pick the one for the situation, you know?
Yeah, I think also the difficulty, especially in solo queuing, is because there can be multiple right answers. Uh, you and your teammates may not always pick the same correct answer, and then you get double commits. Like every time a ball pops up somewhat near the midfield, second or third man, depending on how you define them, like either of them could go for the ball and it be correct, as long as if one of them goes and the other one doesn't. In most situations.
Yeah. That's an argument for why having comms will help you no matter what rank you're at.
Oh yeah, I think not having voice comms work at the beginning did so much to like develop this solo mentality in Rocket League, especially in North America, that like I'm wondering how different the game would be if voice chat was normal from the beginning.
Yeah. People would play the game a lot differently, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like, because if you think about it, this is a video I'm working on. Name one video in the, what is it, 9 years now? Rocket League has been out, give or take. Name one video that has taught anybody how to communicate in Rocket League.
Yeah, I could actually answer it. They're not. There
Yeah.
aren't any. The reason I've seen stuff like Waiton had a Gamers Ready course on how to communicate better. The reason is because nobody wants to search it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. I know what people are typing in the search bar because it's the videos I make.
Yeah.
They've been typing the same thing since 2020.
Mhm.
It's Rocket League, how to best settings. That's the number one result. The number two result is Rocket League. Well, it used to be Rocket League how to air dribble. Then it became Rocket League how to speed flip. That's the second thing people want to learn how to do. And then after that, it's kind of noise, but it's like the third, fourth, and fifth thing that people want to learn is like how to air dribble. Fast aerial used to be up there. It's not up there anymore. And air roll still, like people still want to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
But you're right. Because of this solo meta, if you search Rocket League how to, yeah, the first three results are air dribble, speed flip, get better, doesn't count. And then, dribble, flip, reset, aerial. That's what people still want to learn how to do.
Yeah. It's all that, oh, I just didn't hit this mechanic. And so if I get more consistent at this mechanic, then I'll rank up. Which is like this weird paradox of, yes, you like get more ability, but going back to the start, it's just like, does having all that ability make you a good Rocket League player or not?
Yes, it's the difference between the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns.
Yeah.
So at any given time, you're trying to as a Rocket League player, if your only goal is to improve, the what you should be thinking about is what is the number one thing that I need to improve most as a player. That'll help you regardless of what rank you are. But the problem with improving on your own is there are a bunch of things that you don't know how to do. You know that your speed flips aren't consistent and you can only do it on the left side and not on the right side. You know that your corner kickoffs, for example, you mess them up, 1 in every 10 times. You know that when you're shadow defending, sometimes you just accidentally backflip and it costs you a goal. You know that all those things are weak points. But then there's also all the unknown things that you're bad at that you don't realize you're bad at. And so you could be working on the thing that, of all the things is the thing you're worst at. But if somebody else came and looked at your gameplay, they would be like, oh yeah, and by the way, I don't know if you're noticing this, but before you go up for every aerial, you're burning 60 boosts. So you're starting every play with 40 boosts. And the player's like, oh, I didn't notice I was making that mistake. I've been working on I thought I had bad air roll control, and that's why I wasn't scoring any of my aerials. It's like, no, because you only have 40 boosts to work with every single time. That's the hard part about ranking up. You have to pick what you're going to work on. And, none of us are good at coaching ourselves. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think also one of the like more interesting things too is like on the like off-ball decision making, like just how much that changes over the ranks. And like as if gold still existed, like if your teammate's pushing the ball down the field and like it goes mildly up in the air, it's good to sit behind them because they will jump for that, and at least half the time they're probably going to whiff, or at the very least just pop it up higher. And so it's good to sit behind them. You get into that like diamond champ range. If they bring it up the wall, at least if they should be diamond champ, referring to our previous conversation, like they're at least going to get some sort of forward touch most of the time. And so at that point, instead of sitting behind them, you want to get kind of wide diagonal. So that way, if a hard hit comes, cool, you can take the pass. Or if it's a soft hit and they end up staying behind it, you can just like, all right, cool, I'm just going to demo and get out, or just steal boost and get out and get behind.
Agree.
Like,
agree. I guess I can speak to this only because I had a content piece that a year ago went viral for my standards, which was I made a video ranking all the mechanics to help you rank up. I was very clear at the start of this video. This video is a tier list for the average player. At the time, I think average was Diamond 1 or Plat 3 or something in here.
Yeah.
And in that tier list, I rank a lot of mechanics, as good. I put shooting up top. I put all the mechanics you think that should probably be up top. But I put one mechanic in the F tier as a statement piece. I said redirects are a waste of time to learn for the average player. And I get tagged on Twitter in response. So you agree, right? And other people like Waiton at the time come to my defense. But people are like, how could you be saying that redirects are so important to rank up? And I'm like, they are important to rank up for anybody that's above, anybody that's in the top 10% of the player base, champ 1, champ 2, champ 3. It's important to be a passing outlet. It's important to be able to stay upfield and get unexpected touches. But for the average player, you need to be behind your team.
Yeah.
Redirects are not good. And so this is what I'm getting at with, like, I can do my best to make a tier list on YouTube and try to give the average player some direction, but it's absolutely not going to apply to everybody. And I think that's one of the hardest parts with giving coaching advice through content, or with like, if you're watching right now, if you ever watch improvement advice on Rocket League, you need to be very clear who is speaking and who they're speaking to, because they might be saying all the right things and you're watching their video, but guess what? They're not speaking to you. You're Plat 3 watching the video, and they're giving instructions for what a Grand Champ player should do. In which case, you should do everything you can to click off, mute out what they're going to say, because it's only going to interfere with the things that you need to focus on most. Right? So this is kind of the tough balance between, like, just wanting to learn. Sometimes we don't need to learn more. Sometimes we don't need to be taught. We just need to be reminded. Right? And this is the hard part.
Yeah, like, because here's the thing, like, if your teammate can barely hit the ball hard enough for it to go downfield, what makes you think it's going to have enough speed for you to redirect anyway?
Yeah. And if they're going to hit it 20% of the time and you're sitting upfield for a redirect, what happens to 80% of the time that they miss, that the pass is too slow, that it doesn't go on your side of the field? It's exactly like you said.
Yeah. I think that's when it comes to, kind of transitioning this into, like, this is like the ranked experience. The competitive experience is, like, it's such a different world. Like, even just teams of champs and, like, diamonds, like, getting a team that's working together as a team that's, like, more or less figured out how they're going to play together. It's such a different world, and it's so hard to rate teams, like, based on that. Because I don't know if like, my big moment in coaching, or, like, what got me, I guess, started on the pro path. Have you heard that story yet, or no?
No, provide more context for the people watching too.
Yeah. So if you've been on the podcast, or if you've listened to the podcast, you may have heard it before. But there was a D3 school I was coaching at. We had a champ 1, a champ 2, and a grand champ 1. And we were working, it was just like, hey, like, here's how we're going to play. Like, very systematic. 2 of them were football players. One of them's a football coach at a high school now. And so it was like, hey, like, we're going to organize it this way. We're going to have these things figured out. So we're going to be on the same page 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked really well. And we started playing in Tactical Bandits, which was a weekly tournament at the time. And this is where, like, the bubble scene, like, goes to play, get better, etc. We go up against a rank A team, which, for people who don't have the context, that's like top 32 in North America. And we take a game
all
off
SSLs.
Of them. Yeah. Not just SSL, but, like, 2200, 2400. Like, we end up taking a game off of them. And to put it in perspective, like, on average, there was a 600 or 700 MMR difference.
Yeah, which is just nuts.
Yeah. And so that's where, like, at that point, like, how do you start rating teams? Like, and just, like, how different it is.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, when you get a team together, that's when, like, strategy and kickoffs and stuff like that become much more important than necessarily the individual level. Because there's a lot of people that are extremely talented. Like, we can look at like, what the freestylers are doing and, like, how consistently they can hit stuff. But how quick can they make the decision and be on the same team, or be on the same page as their teammate under pressure? And there's that whole different skill set.
Yeah.
You got some wheels turning.
I think one of the interesting things, well, I'm thinking about how I can tie it back. I think it's really interesting how, especially at the high ranks, it does become much more about team play and strategy. And I'm just thinking about how does this tie back to the average person watching? Because most of you guys watching right now are rated plat, diamond, or champ. We know this.
Yeah.
And one thing that I always advise to players is, just like you said, anybody can win one game in Rocket League. The reason you're the rank you are right now is not because of how you perform on any individual game.
Yeah.
It's about your consistency over the course of 20 games. And so one of the best pieces of advice that I could give to people, especially if you're on like a losing streak or you feel like your rank isn't, you know, accurately reflecting where you're at right now, it's exactly like you said. Just pick a game plan and stick to it.
Yeah.
And if there's anything you can do when you're queuing ranked, do everything you can to limit people tilting you. Do everything you can to not play when you know you're going to lose or not play when you know you're on your off days, because the rank that you find yourself at is not the result of one game. It's it's making sure that you don't get rattled after a bad loss, et cetera, et cetera. And the rank system takes time to calibrate. And you're not going to reach your true rank in any Rocket League season until you play 40, 50, 60, you know, maybe 100 games. So it's more so about playing your game and staying consistent over time and doing everything you can, not to peak in any given game, but just to minimize your mistakes. I think that's what the average player should really be focused on, and not letting any one game get to their head, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like there's so many times where it's also like, this is one of the things that I personally struggle with, just like as somebody who's like always in the coach mindset, is being in the coach mindset while I'm playing. Because I'm like, oh wait, yeah, we should do this, 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 and this. And it's like, it's so clear to me what we should do. And I'm like, oh wait, my teammate's behind me. Versus like in this giant open space back post where I could pass it to him. And so it's really easy to get into that mindset of just like, well, my teammate's not on the same page. And I think that's where, you know, cycling back to like, eventually, like you've got to be able to carry if you're going to get to Grand Champ.
Yeah.
Especially right now with like the way ranked is.
Totally.
Or just queue with friends and have fun with the game. That is always another option. Like we talk about improving and stuff, like, but I think we've, as the Rocket League community, at least like the more public side of it, like we forgot that this is a video game meant to be fun.
More rank is not always better.
Yeah.
I made a video, shoot, I forget the title, but it was based on this exact idea. Because sometimes I'll post something and I'll be like, you know, for example, if you want to, I'll say in short, you know, if you want to rank up, consider doing a warm up before you queue ranked. And then, you know, try this 5 to 10 minute warm up routine instead of just doing, you know, free to play air dribbles before you play ranked. And of course, somebody in the comment comes back and hits me with this is just a game. Why do I have to warm up for 10 minutes before I play ranked every time if I don't want to? And my answer is, you're right. You don't. And sometimes ranking up isn't the only goal. I think a lot of people want to rank up to some extent and improve over time. But I think we all have some limit to where it's no longer worth it. So I could tell you, for example, if you want to maximize your Rocket League rank, the best thing for you to do would be to commit to this 4-hour routine that you break up into 2 portions, once in the morning and once at night, every day, 6 days a week, take 1 rest day. That's the best way to rank up. And most people would immediately tell me, I have a life. No, thank you. But yet people will consume content and do things without realizing, like, hey, maybe ranking up isn't the most important. So I think it's always important to think, like, when is enough? Like, for example, if you're Diamond right now and you want to get to Champ 2 to play with your friends, okay, you get to Champ 2 to play with your friends. You're still going to want to rank up and get to Grand Champ. So I think at some point you have to decide when is the time, effort, and sacrifice no longer, when am I not willing to pay the price needed? Because when you think about it, SSL is just a price. It's an object. And the way you pay for it is with 4,000 plus or minus 3,000 hours, you know, of game time. Are you willing to pay that price? It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, are you willing to pay that price in your life?
Mhm.
You know, it's a different answer for everybody.
Yeah, like not everybody aimed to become an RLCS coach, and so not everybody paid the price of spending 3,000 hours just watching and breaking down replays.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
like if
Which is something that you want to do and you were willing to pay the price.
yeah, and I think that's where people got to realize like there's trade-offs too. It's like I could have done a lot of other things with those 3,000 hours,
Mhm.
but it was worth it to me,
Right.
and thankfully it worked out.
Yeah, that's just it. It's what are your goals? So I think what I try to do with my content is I try to give, you know, I try to give people methods and strategies to get the most improvement for the least effort. You know, the 20% of things that everybody can learn that will get them 80% of the results.
Mhm.
Now, the fact still remains. If you're not willing to put in enough hours, the best that my content's going to get you to is Champ 1, Champ 2, Champ 3.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I think that's where it's interesting, and that's why I at least try to be clear in my content, like that I make my videos for the average guy, for the average player,
Mhm.
and the average player does not need to do a lot of things. So that's where like I think it's always fun to talk about like talk with other coaches like you, because we get into things like, you know, what should the average player be focused on, and it's completely different than the stuff that you're talking about with your team of SSLs, you know, or even with, you know, AJ and you know, Jorius and these guys who are super mechanical. It's just a completely different game.
Yeah, I guess that's a fun topic to talk about is kickoffs. Just like I did a video on when I did my video on the rank system, I was just like I was trying to find some metric of that's like objective, and I was just like, let me look at kickoffs and like not if people do like front flip kickoff or speed flips, just where do they go on kickoffs and do they do like the quote unquote standard kickoff?
Yeah.
And
Do they play the best opening move, basically?
yeah, essentially.
It's like
and
chess.
and Champ, if they weren't the one going for kickoff, 41% of the time they were making a bad move.
They weren't playing, and so let's say, was this in threes or twos?
This was in threes.
Threes, right? So you have one person getting corner boost, one person soft cheating. Is that like game theory optimal?
Yeah,
move
like
most times?
that's like the standard, you know. And I was just like, I expected like, you know, maybe 15% because you know, variety like fake kickoffs, you know, maybe
Yeah,
they're
tricks
party up.
work. Tricks work as long as you mix them in
Yeah,
appropriate amount.
but like seeing people like go for the mid boost and like their teammate trying to like lose it back corner, and then the other person is grabbing the other corner boost. That's not the
It's
way.
just
that
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, or just like both people going and grabbing corner boost, and the 50 just
Yeah.
stalling right in front of them, and like.
Mhm. Yep.
I think that's I guess one of the more interesting things like to think about was if we tie it back to like not just your performance on every game or like you're peaking in an individual game, but like what happens most often, and
Yes.
you know what's the E of X.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with that term or not.
Yeah. I'm not. Does it mean what is the most consistent? What's the best? What's the best
Yeah.
move?
So like what's like the most expected? So it's
Yeah.
like the expected value. Like if this happens 20% of the time, but it gives you 10 points, and this other thing happens 80% of the time, but it gives you 1
Yes.
point each time it happens. So if like you do the math and you're like, oh, okay, this one's better, like mathematically, like, yes, I may lose some games because this one thing happened that gave the other team 10 points.
Right. But people are
But-
risk averse.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so this is how you like calculate what the expected value is like basically.
Yeah.
It's just like, if I do this, will it happen every time? No, but it happens enough that not being here
Yeah.
consistently
I want to
will
put a great
cause you to lose on that larger scale.
Yes. I think it's a great point, JC. I want to put an example to this. so that people know like how this applies to their games, right? So we know that if you're trying to win in Rocket League, right, you're trying to play the best move every time, more or
Mhm.
less, given your mechanics and given all the information, right? You're trying to play the best move. The problem is we're humans and we're biased, and we will not make the best move due to predictable and repeatable biases that have been
Mhm.
studied, inside of Rocket League and throughout. So, like one example is risk aversion, loss aversion. So we are more scared to lose things than we are to two things equally valued. We'd be more scared to lose it than we are to. We wouldn't risk as much to lose it as we would to obtain it. I think I put this the right way.
Yeah.
Rocket League example. I'll be coaching 2v2. And I'll be coaching two players who are let's say they're diamond rated. We know that the best option in 2v2, JC, you'll just have to trust JC and I as coaches on this. We know that the best option is for one player to go for the ball and the other person to soft cheat. What
Mhm.
this means is they don't position right behind the ball in the 50-50, but they're also not sitting on their goal line.
Yeah.
Okay?
Basically, one boost
Seems-
head behind the ball.
Exactly. We know this Rocket League's been played for a long, just in the same way that in chess, you move one of the middle pawns. That's the best move to make. In Rocket League, you put your car behind the kickoff. It's the best move to make. Yet, when I coach people, I'll be coaching somebody in Plat and Diamond, and they'll be going for corner boost in a twos game instead of soft cheating on the kickoff. And I'll ask them why. And they said, well, my teammate lost a kickoff last game I was in, and if he loses it and it goes over my head and it goes in our net, if I get corner boost, I can go back to defend it. Yes, you can go back to defend it, but you're losing out on every other situation that doesn't go that way. And because we're so focused on not losing, we don't play the best move. And that's the reality that unfortunately, like, I think whether it's social media or whether it's just because, human bias, sometimes the best move in Rocket League is the boring move.
Yep.
And we don't want to make the boring move. We want to make the flashy move. We want to go for corner boost or be a hunter boost, when the reality is we should just sit behind the 50-50 and wait for something to happen. And that's one of the hardest parts about ranking up is sometimes you need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. You just need to do the right boring thing that you've done for the last 10 games and trust that you'll rank up over the long term if you keep doing it. But it's hard to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when it comes to that specifically, or not just the kickoffs, but I think people have overcomplicated being second man.
Mm.
Like, I have a term, it's called shadow offense. And I'm sure you can tell where I got the name from. But essentially, like, if your teammate is like about to be challenged and like they're going to get a 50, that's when it's good to be like somewhat close so that way you can interact with that 50. But if they have a ton of space and both of your opponents or all the opponents are just rotating back post, and your teammate has the ball and he has started an air dribble or started doing something on the wall, at that point, you want to match the space that the opponents have given you. Like, your teammate has space with the ball, so you should take more space elsewhere. If your teammate doesn't have space with the ball, that's when you like close in behind him and play for that 50.
Mm-hmm.
And like that one simple thing, that I think if people understood that about being second man, because it takes very little time to look at your teammate and go, oh, he has half the field of space in front of him. Let me get wide. Or, oh, he's about to get challenged. Now let me get behind him. Like, just something that simple. Like, I've seen people rank up a ton just off of that one adaptation.
Yeah.
Like, at every rank, because even though, your teammate might lose it, you have a third man if they're doing their job right.
Yes.
And if they win it, it's like, it's so outside the norm for
Right.
honestly all the ranks that they're like, wow, how did he know to be there for that pass? It's like, oh, you guys just left it open space, so I went and sat there.
Right.
You know,
I think it's a great point, JC. There are very few. I think a fun question to talk about for the audience before we wrap up here is like a lot of this conversation has been about how Rocket League is situational, which sucks as a viewer because you're listening, you're like, great, it's situational, so I just have to put 1,000 hours into learning every situation. It's like, yes, but there are some shortcuts. So like, I think maybe it would be fun for us to talk about some of those shortcuts. Like, what rules apply Not, of course, nothing applies 100% of the time, but what rules, if you follow, for the average player will work most of the time and are pretty safe to follow. I think that's a great rule,
If
for
you're
example.
first man, get the ball to open space before you leave. Hopefully that open space is in their net, but you never want to
Yeah.
just hand over possession and leave. You can kind of get away with it in threes because typically you'll have somebody ready to like immediately follow up that challenge if you do lose it. But in twos, basically, if you feel like you're ball chasing as first man, you're probably doing it right. And then as second man, just sit back and wait for that ball to hit open space.
Yeah. Play the ball to open space as first man. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think as last man back, yeah, I think that rule's great. I like the rule you said a lot about shadow offense. As second man, you match the spacing of their second man. Sounds super simple. It is simple. It's usually a pretty good answer. I think if you're playing threes, once again, it's not always the right answer, but a good guess, your best bad guess is if you're last man back, play for the worst outcome. Assume that your plat, teammate who's first man and the diamond one who's backing him up may mess up, and you're going to be there to bail him out. So just playing super safe as third man, especially for the average player, it's going to do you a lot of good. I think of things like rotating back post. Once again, it's not always the right answer. Sometimes you should be shadowing. Sometimes you should be fighting in the corner. Most of the time, if you sit back post at the low ranks, good things happen. Things like this. These are all things that you can follow that will help you rank up regardless of circumstance. Like they're just pretty good rules to follow.
Everybody's worried about learning like all the exceptions to the rules before they even learn the rules.
Yes, it's right. It's like start with the first thing.
Yeah, it's like the reason why Magnus Carlsen, we've talked about chess a lot. Like the reason why he's able to play all these crazy openings is because he knows those lines so well that people are afraid of playing him in like the standard openings.
Yeah,
and it's like he knows them so well, like he's going to win or draw, and so because he knows the right moves, like in every situation, it forces people to go outside of that, and then he's got them beat there because he knows that stuff too.
Yeah, but it's like, where do you start? Yeah, I think a lot of new players, it's hard to recognize where we're at in our journeys because we consume content and we want to. Of course, we all think that we're better than we are, me included. I want to work on all these fancy things, and then I get in a coaching session, and my coach tells me that I'm literally just sitting too close to the play most of the time, and I need to keep more space. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that before I focus on the million other things that I want to do. And it's like, it's especially true, like for most of you watching, the simple, boring answer for most of you is usually the right one. So, odds are you don't need to do more things with your gameplay. You don't need to learn the new fancy mechanic that just dropped and all the pros are now, zap dashing. And so you need to zap dash. That's not the reason you're not ranking up out of plat. The reason you're ranking up out of plat is because when you get an open net, you only hit it 60% of the time. When you have the opportunity to clear the ball, you're clearing it, but it's weak and it should be stronger. These are the things, that the boring answers are a lot of times the right ones. I don't know if you can speak to that.
Yeah, like the easiest way to do a self replay review is look at how many times there is an open path from the ball to the net that you could have been there for and that you could have shot.
Right.
Like if you just need one thing to figure out, like, especially for like the lower ranks, and by lower ranks I mean not pro.
Yeah.
Or
anything
even
below
pros,
grand champ.
Yeah, or like even pros at sometimes, like it's just like, okay, yeah, we did everything right, that we just didn't put it in the net. And so sometimes, like even at the pro level, like it can be that simple as, okay, I'm just not shooting well enough, or okay, yeah, I put it on net, but it was 20 miles an hour bottom left corner, and they were sitting bottom left corner. And it's like, that was a net that I should have scored. That definitely didn't happen earlier today before the podcast, A little bit of sarcasm there. But yeah, like if you're looking for that one simple way is literally just net that's open, path from the ball, and I could have been here to make it go in that path. If you
Right.
do that, it'll help you fix a lot of other issues. And you can
Sure.
do that on inverse too. Like if you just notice you're getting scored on a lot, it's like, why was there an open path to your net to begin with?
Right. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I guess you've got some content dropping soon. Any fun things that you want to leak? You said you were working on a video, but I can't remember exactly what it was about.
Yeah, so we've taken a pause from content because we've been prepping a lot of different things. We currently have 5 videos in stock. So we've been working on content like month of February, April, and May. We're going to be posting a lot more. But not just that, we're actually going to be, when we post, the reason we're not posting is because we're waiting to announce something. And when we announce it, we're going to be giving a lot of free stuff away to the first couple people that see it. So that's what we're looking forward to, month of April. If you want to check out the channel, everything will be dropped on my YouTube. It's just Spooky Luke. It rhymes. I came up with it when I was 16. Don't judge me. But yeah, all updates there.
My gamer tag is the same one from when I was 13.
Yeah, that's great. It got us this far. JC,
Yeah.
I appreciate all the time. Anytime I can come on again, just let me know.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I think we had a good conversation. I think hopefully we said some boring stuff that made people rank up, you know?
Yep. Well, I can't wait to see the comments. Luke still says redirects are bad. Yes, redirects are not the right answer. You know, maybe in a couple years when people are more mechanical, I'll be telling you to learn redirects in Plat, and then I'll eat my own words. But
yeah,
for now.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, hey, definitely go like the video, comment. This is going to be a fun, interactive comment section. I'm feeling it. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Thanks,
Y'all have a good
JC.
one. Yeah, thanks for coming on.